You're listening to the Storm Report, your weekly insight into the Manchester Storm, brought to you by Storm TV's Matty Finnegan.
Hello hockey fans, how are you doing? Welcome to episode 19 now of the Storm Report podcast. Today, myself and Joe are joined by your number 35. We just said off air that it's long overdue, and this time it's off the back of a 37 save shutout on his return to the Storm Shelter. Try saying that 3 times fast. Please welcome to the pod for his first appearance, Evan Weninger.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, like you said, a little overdue, but it's good to be here.
It is great to have you, and even better to see you back in the Storm Shelter as well. It must have felt good to be back.
Yeah, it was a long road. There was obviously some ups and downs, especially when dealing with injury and kind of the situation as a team we were in the standings. But to kind of come back and get the performance that the team put out in front of me was one of those that I'll probably remember forever. My entire family was in the stands. That was one of the few games that my sister has ever got to see me play live, and so there was a lot of meaning behind it for me personally. And it was just nice to kind of get that result, especially against a team like Cardiff in the Storm Shelter after that injury. So it's one of those ones that definitely won't be slipping the mind.
I look forward to unpacking that and getting into really what it means and all the stuff leading up to it and after it and all sorts. There's going to be a really good episode. I'm really looking forward to it. The first question I want to ask is, you just said there it's one of the only times you've had family in the building to watch you in a Storm jersey. Does that even add to the first question I was going to ask? Did you feel any sort of extra nerves before your return? Do goalies get nervous?
It was not really like nervous. It's more of just that unfamiliar feeling of kind of being in the game. Once you kind of get a game under your belt and then you kind of get on a little bit of a routine almost, and you kind of calm those nerves or that jittery feeling. But for sure, I mean, the Coventry game a couple weeks before that and even the Cardiff one was kind of just like almost uncomfortable, feeling like you haven't been there in a little bit. And then as soon as you kind of make that first save or you get in the warm-ups and you're sitting in the dressing room with the guys, it kind of calmed everything down. Having the family in town definitely, I wouldn't say put pressure, but it was more of really wanted to make sure I was at my best or the best I could be for them and for them to see, because they'll watch most of them watch every game on the webcast there most of the time, but they don't get to see much in person. So it was nice to kind of have that and to kind of get through those early nerves and get a couple nice saves early to kind of get myself kind of relaxed and then back into it.
It's always good to play in front of your family and stuff. And I can only apologize if they end up listening to this podcast, if it's my voice that they're hearing all the time. I don't even want to know about that. But I tell you what, you didn't seem nervous. And that started out with the warm-ups, like you said. And you come out there, you make the first couple of saves, kind of get a feel for the crease and stuff like that. And I was wondering maybe if feeling a little bit more at ease, is that anything to do with the goalie mask that you've got on now?
For sure, a little bit. I mean, everybody knows the old saying, look good, feel good, play good. The helmet for me has been kind of one of those things. I don't get it painted unless I'm comfortable where I am and the team supports in that way. I mean, this is my first one really since college. And so it was nice to kind of get that personal touch and to kind of feel like a complete goalie again with all my gear matching and everything. And the artist CT Airbrush did such a good job that, did my mic mute there? Damn.
Temporary little mishap, but that's okay. We'll keep going.
Sorry, my thumb slipped. It's the painter did such a good job of capturing the details that I wanted personally. And then a lot of the little details that people around had kind of given me for ideas for Manchester kind of stuff. And it turned out so well, and it matches my equipment, our jerseys really well. So it kind of gives that extra little bit of, I don't like saying the word swag because it's not really how I feel, but it's just that confidence of, I look good.
I'm sure swag is the word that a lot of Storm fans would use. I was wondering how much input you actually had on the creation of it, because you see goalies whenever they get a chance to get a new helmet and stuff like that, they always have a little bit of involvement in there. They want something that's personal to them. Is there anything, if we were to take a real close look at it, that's like that's a trademark of something for me?
I mean, really, it's just the Winnie the Pooh on the back. That's been one of my former teammates growing up in minor hockey. His dad started screaming Winnie just because of Weninger, and it kind of started snowballing, and then just became the nickname. And then my first painted helmet when I was in maybe U13 or U15, I got the same paint job I have now, the Curtis Joseph with the dog. But then I put a Winnie the Pooh sticker on the back because it was just a sticker on the helmet. And then from there on, it kind of just kept going, where I had the whole helmet was Winnie the Pooh in the past. And then now I know that I have to do the team stuff, but we always kind of get the back plate as our personal area for sure. And so I've got the Winnie the Pooh on the back, just kind of has been there pretty much with every helmet I've had.
It's a cool little bit of extra customization you get to have with being a goalie. You get to kind of choose a little bit more how you look.
Absolutely.
So with the gear on and with the swag on, to use your own words, you're out there getting ready for your first game back in the storm shelter. Talk me through maybe some, if there are any. I mean, any sort of pre-game routines or superstitions that you might have to get yourself in the headspace to go out there and compete.
I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not super superstitious. I mean, I've kind of put my equipment on the same way every time pretty much since I started being a goalie, just because it was kind of the pattern that I started with. If that changes, it doesn't really mess me up, but I wouldn't see how I change it because it's muscle memory at this point. Other than that, I really don't have anything that I have to do or that I mark out on my day that I have to do. I kind of just go about to try and make sure that I'm feeling the best mentally and physically going into the game. And so if that means we played last night and we got to get on a bus all day, I like to get a little bit of a walk in, get my food, and then most of the rest of the day is kind of relaxing, a little bit of stretching, just kind of making sure I feel good. But specifically for last game and at home here, it was kind of just woke up, made some food, and went for a little bit of a walk to see my parents and hang out with them for a little bit before. And then I think it was an early game, so I don't even think I had a little nap, but usually the pregame nap is a staple. I can't wait to get to the game time. And so just sitting there doing nothing is impossible for me. So I'll find myself closing my eyes and falling asleep for a little bit for sure throughout the day.
Pre-game naps. I think that's a new one on the show. We've had eating pasta. We've had football, which I might ask you about in a second. I've never seen you down there playing football, but you
No,
might get involved. No?
no. My first year pro, I was used to play it all the time, and then I kicked one of those metal railings and busted up my toe pretty good. So from then on, I didn't like how it felt in my skate for the next 2.5 weeks. So I tried to avoid having that happen ever again.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, we've had pasta, we've had all sorts of things, different types of music from when we had David Tendek on as well. But yeah, sleep, pre-game naps. I suppose that must help. Joe, have you ever indulged in pre-game naps?
Yeah, always. I was a big nap guy for sure. My whole career. I think the majority of the people that came on here, when they would answer the question, they kind of just answered it specifically from time spent at the rink pre-game, rather than divulge the entire day and see what you do prior to coming to the rink. But I would say it's very more popular than what you think it would be. I think a lot of the guys go throughout the day, like, I mean, Steve-O and me, I don't really know what Steve-O does after, but we go to the gym in the morning together and, get loose, get nice and limber, do some weights, throw it around a little bit. But after that, I definitely come back, eat some food, hang out, fall asleep for a bit. And then, it's kind of a difficult time because you're trying to waste time, but you're not trying to waste time, like you're just trying to occupy your time efficiently. but you can't just sit and wait for the game to come. So it's like, you're not going to go run errands, or you're not going to go do what you do on a normal day because you want to conserve as much energy, but you also just can't sit and do nothing. So it's like, I feel like the nap just comes in and it's just like, okay, like
for me, it's a good way to waste time. And like the thing, I mean, I think me and Heine, and I think we might have talked about this last week. It's so different as a goalie because I can go in, and if my body doesn't feel great, that, I mean, obviously that's a hindrance, but I have to have my mind in the right headspace before a game, and my eyes have to be working as best as they can. Where talking with Heine, if he's not feeling so great before a game, he can just go and lay a couple hits and get in somebody's face, and then he feels into the game, and it kind of gets that adrenaline, where I have to kind of control everything, control that emotion, and just kind of be like going into that game with that same mindset and that hopefully same mentality every time of calm, seeing the puck, body feels good, you hope. And that's where I find the nap helps, where you just kind of reset. You're waking up, and it doesn't feel like a new day, but it kind of feels like a new day where you're like, oh, nice hockey game now. Let's go.
That's
Yeah,
so
I think
interesting.
too, from a goalie's perspective, like the difference between a player and a goalie too is adrenaline is a huge thing for sure, because it's like if you were reliant on an adrenaline rush probably only comes from kind of like an emergency save, a last ditch save.
Yeah.
And it's like if you don't get that, you know, you're waiting for it, you're trying to force it.
Yeah.
You know, you get that save, you're trying to like be out of position and make that sprawling save to get you fired up. And it's just like, if it doesn't work out, it's just a goal. And then it's like, you know, like, oh boy, you know, is trying to do something where for sure as a player, like if something's not going well, you can find adrenaline in the game. Like as a player being out on the ice, defenseman specifically, you can find it. If you want adrenaline, go find it. You know, somebody winds up for a shot, slide in front of it, throw your face in front of it. It's like, you can find it. If you know the whistle blows and you're just not into a game, go cross check somebody and, you know, get in a little scuffle, throw them around, wrestle a little bit. Like I've always wondered that too, from a goalie's perspective. Like if you're in a game, I mean, you can't really use the majority of our games, for example, because our rink's small and you're always engaged. But mentally, if your team is dominating a game, like what do you do personally as a goalie? Do you watch the game? Do you just focus on other things? Are you looking at stuff in the stands and like following different things to see how like engaged you are in the game? Or what's like a secret that you would use to stay mentally in the game if your team was dominating that game and you weren't getting much action?
I mean, I used to struggle with that as a kid. I used to only want to play on a team that I'd get that 35, 40 shots, because it just got boring. Like, so you just standing there. Things that helped me was kind of just like always analyzing, seeing what's going on. So for example, we've had a couple this year where I think there was one in Dundee where I started the game and I had like 9 minutes without a shot. And you're just standing like, nice, I got warmed up and now I'm just waiting. But I find over exaggerating my movements when the puck does come towards our zone, or we go for a regroup, say you and Harry go D to D, following that on my feet, kind of pretending like there is maybe an option for a shot on goal to come around. And then just kind of going over little mental checkpoints that I have as far as just the goaltending stuff. So like just going, okay, like keep my feet tight, keep my hands forward, snap the eyes to the puck, and just little things to remind myself when that does come, if we're 7-8 minutes without a shot, of just like the little things that I have to do when that moment comes. And then it kind of wastes the time, right? Because you're sitting there and you guys are wheeling around, and then you just kind of go over little things. I happen to sing songs at times too, but that's when it gets an extended period of time.
Yeah, that's some crazy good insight on what goalies do, because I mean, I would have never known that.
Oh, it gets boring. There's times you just stand there, you're like, all right, or it'll come and then there'll be a shot and you're waiting for it, and then Harry will step in front and block it. You're like, I could have my one to kind of get myself going. That's okay.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. You guys have kind of ticked off some of the questions. I mean, Joe, it's almost like you're reading from the question sheet that I prepared as well, with one of them talking about like staying like in the right headspace in a game when shots are coming through, kind of building off a question that I like to normally ask anyway. But just before we get to that, the whole sleeping thing, just to recap that point, that's something that I would probably not have ever thought about, is the fact that, like you're alluding to, most of the team having a nap before the game. Now, I don't know if this is just because I'm more of a fan than anything else at the end of the day, but when there's a couple of hours to go before a game, I can't sleep. I'm like buzzing. I don't know how you guys would be able to do that without like some sleeping
Yeah,
pills or something.
but the problem with that is that, like, so if I were to give you a super exciting carrot dangling in front of you that's going to drop at 7 p.m. and you're up at 7:30 a.m., what do you do with your day? Like, you have anything you want to do. What are you going to do?
Well, I'll tell you what, from being a student at the moment, I'd say I'll wake up at 10 instead of 7 and that'll sort me out. But,
yeah, exactly. Like, you can't just sit. I mean, as an athlete, well, I mean, I shouldn't say you can't just do this or you can't do that. I can't just sit. I would just have like a panic attack. Like, if I'm just sitting staring at the wall being like, okay, it's like 9:58. Okay, like, I just can't. You have to occupy your mind with other things because there's so much to think about, but there's also a counterproductive side of it where if you exhaust yourself, then you get to the game and you're just like, you're in a different mental capacity than you should be. You've been thinking about something for so long, rather than, I honestly just pretend it's not there sometimes. Like, I'll just be like, yeah, we got a game at 7. Okay, so I got to be there at 5. I'm going to leave at 4:30. I'll set an alarm just to make sure. And then I just pretend like I don't have that to do, because.
Or else you just think of it and you're sitting there like, all right, Cardiff tonight, like, who do I got to watch out for? Well, Sanford's
Exactly.
power play one timer. I got to be ready. O'Brien likes to stand in front. And then you think, and then by the time you get to the game, you're absolutely, well, for me, just mentally exhausted. So it's just, it's a good way of putting it, of like if you have that to look forward to. And my point on it was going to be, as a fan, like, you see it, you have that at 7 p.m. and you're excited because it's an exciting spectacle to be watching. Whereas for me personally, I don't know about others, but this is like, hockey is my favorite thing to do in the world, maybe other than video games. And to get to go out and play at 7 p.m. is one of the best things in the world. And if I sit there and I'm just giddy and excited about it all day and fired up, then by the time I get there, I'm almost wasted my day and wasted my energy and wasted my mental strength on thinking about the game that's coming up. Where if I don't think about it, like Joe said, you just kind of hang out, you get through your day, you do what you like to do, and then by the time camp comes, it's almost like you're excited because you've prepared and you're ready to go in that way.
Sounds to me like you get an easy out as well if the team maybe doesn't play too well. He goes, "Oh, I just slept funny earlier."
yeah.
Easy excuse there too. No, well, when you guys explain it like that, it makes a lot of sense. Sorry, you have one more thing?
No, I was joking. They're doing construction. I didn't get a good nap in, so sorry.
Yeah, very fair.
Yeah, no, loads of different
Shout
excuses
out Lloyd
there.
Street. Figure it out. Easy with the jackhammers.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that in a post game interview before, but there's never too late to see if those excuses work.
Yeah.
But anyway, now that you've had your sleep and you're in a game, my angle was going to come from, like, the end of the game reads 6-0, but it wasn't always 6-0. There were moments when Cardiff could have got back into it and all they needed was a goal to kickstart some momentum. And there were some moments when, man, they were really trying, and that they were absolutely, a term that I'm not sure you guys use, but we use it over here, they're absolutely peppering your goal with shots.
Yeah.
And you were called upon in some big moments. And Joe, kind of, your response earlier almost answered the opposite of, you get really bored when nothing's happening and when you're almost not getting peppered. So do you prefer to have loads of people taking like clappers at you all the time?
To an extent, yeah. Like I said, when I was a kid, I grew up on teams that I guess looking back, maybe weren't as good as the other teams in the leagues. But I just loved getting that 40 shots and making 37 saves and winning 4-3 kind of thing. That to me always was just it's because it's hard as a goalie when you win. Like we had one last year against Fife. We won 2-0. I had 22 saves, and it feels great, but it almost doesn't feel like you contributed that much. Where you know that, like, it doesn't that I don't appreciate those wins as much. It's just when you do get that 37 shots or you make a couple of those big saves, it does kind of feel just that little more of like, nice. Okay, there's my stamp on the game. I wasn't just the guy at the back doing what I had to. I had to go a little bit extra. I had to do something else, like a player scoring a goal kind of thing, where it's like, nice, that's their contribution. It's easy to see it. And so I think that part of my brain always loved it, but it is a big part of just like being active and like not just standing there. It was a little nerve-wracking with Cardiff because obviously a really good offensive team and just a good team in general. And there were times in that second period where, I mean, the way our year's gone, 3-0 against Cardiff with a period and a half left isn't exactly a super comfortable lead. You know it can happen, especially out here. So it's kind of hard. It's easy to stay focused and dialed in on those, but it makes it more fun when it is you get a little bit of a break and then you get peppered with some shots and then maybe you get a whistle or we get to go get a little bit of a shift in the ozone. So it's nice having those little breaks and then getting those little spurts of shots.
It's interesting that you say that because you talk about how a 3-goal deficit, especially in the elite league, just in general, they always say that the 2-goal deficit is the worst lead the 2-goal lead is the worst lead to have in hockey. But the 3-goal lead can sometimes be even worse or even better depending on what side you're on. And it gets me to a point. I started thinking, and this was the hockey romantic in me during the commentary, about second intermission. I'm thinking, how good of a story would it be? First game back in the storm shelter, and he gets a shutout. Now, I didn't say the word, because we were superstitious too, but I kind of gave my commentary partner, Max, I gave him a look, and I was like, it could happen here. And it kind of made me think, something that I'd love to ask you is, when do you start to think, okay, hang on, and then maybe it's like 5 minutes to go. If I just make 1 or 2 more saves, I've got that shutout. How much do you want it? And like, when does that start to be a thing that you consider?
It changes game to game. Like there's some games where I've known 5 minutes in that I'm seeing every puck and I just know that in my head, unless they get an egregious chance and it's Superman-esque kind of save needed, I know that they're not going to beat me with a shot when I'm feeling at my absolute best. That's obviously pretty subjective because then, like I said, you could still get scored on backdoor, but there's times where 5 minutes in, I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's a chance nobody scores on me today. But the realistic of the Cardiff one was about, I think whenever we made it 5-0 or 6-0, it kind of started to set in where I was like, well, now we kind of for sure win the game. Now let's see if we can not get scored on here and kind of keep that out going. And then, I mean, Joe can attest, I don't know what was going on the bench, but from the net, I could see a lot of the guys really selling out to block shots, doing all those little things, which to me meant a lot because, I mean, it's 6-0. You don't expect a guy to go sliding out to block a shot when there's a minute and a half left because they're not going to score 6 goals in 90 seconds. But that's where those little things, to me, it sticks out where you're like, okay, that guy is doing that for me when he really probably didn't have to. But it does kind of, it sets in at different times. Just depends on the lead, depends on how the game's going. If it's a tight game, I try not to think about it.
Well, Joe, let's flip the question. When in the Cardiff game, we'll keep using that as an example for now. When in the Cardiff game did maybe you guys on the bench or maybe even just yourself start thinking, okay, we're doing really well on that end of the ice. What can we do to kind of help Evan get this one over the line?
Honestly, like complete transparency and honesty, in my days as a hockey player, I think that's probably the most fun time of any game for me as a defenseman is when you're up a substantial amount of goals where you know it's almost physically impossible to lose the game.
Yeah.
Because then all you get to do is then you just get to play for your goalie. Like, you don't have to play for the win at any point. You just play to get that shutout. And I think to me, it's so funny and it's so much fun because it just shows everybody, like, it just shows everybody's care and it shows everybody's dedication to whoever is in net. Doesn't matter like who it is, but you'll know, like, I've played on teams and this is going to sound bad, but I've played on teams where you'll be up 5-0 and there'll be 4 minutes left in the game and the game will end 5-3.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not an indication of how good or bad your team is. It's a huge indication of just the players that you have on your team being not selfish, but just uninvolved and disinterested in whoever was in goal. Because, like, at the end of that game, at the end of the Cardiff game, like, I'm banging my stick on the boards and I'm like, let's go, like, let's do it for Wenny. And everybody's all jacked up and they're pumped. Like, they know we can't lose the game, but everybody's still out there sliding around trying to get the puck out and like trying to block shots and stuff, because that's just what our team was. It's just like last year and this year, there's so many guys that just appreciate the goalie we had last year, the goalie we had this year. Like, it's just, guys love Wenny, and it's just like, you just block a shot with, 30 seconds left that, yeah, okay, let him shoot it. But at the same time, it's like, guys just, I personally love it. I think it's hilarious because it's just so much fun to go out there and battle for a single individual rather than battling for a score. So, yeah, during those games, it's like you try your best. It's like you play it like a tie game. You play it like it's 0-0.
It was funny, that one specifically, how much of, like, it felt like a 1-0 game at that point. Like,
yeah.
That was as sellout as I've seen us since, like, honestly, maybe the Sheffield win in Sheffield, where it was like,
yeah,
everybody, like, it was just like, we had the win, but everybody was still selling out that way, and nobody wanted to be the guy to mess it up. So
yeah.
And so
we'll get the bleep, don't worry.
Everybody kind of had that pressure from. I mean, for me, if I don't get the shout, I don't, like, a win's a win. A 6-1 win with my family in town or a 6-0 win, for me at the end of the day, doesn't make a difference. For them, I mean, they probably enjoyed it more with the 6-0, but to see, like, nobody wanted to be the guy to have a mess up at the end of the game, and to me that was really cool, just because being out of the lineup for the amount of time I was, and to get that kind of support was pretty special.
So that game, special is the word I have written down, actually, because it was such an emphatic win against a team that has been so good throughout the season. And there are a couple of little moments in there, and just to kind of, for now at least, close the chapter on that Cardiff game. One final time from you, Evan, with 6 goals going in, nothing going in the other direction. Zach Milton getting on the board as well. We spoke about that in the last episode. If you guys are listening now and haven't listened to that one, definitely give it a check out after this. But yeah, Zach Milton got on the board as well. And then, of course, the shutout. That result meant a lot to the fans. One last time, what did it mean to you?
Everything. I mean, like you said, the Milty goal was, I don't think I've ever seen a team celebrate so much, because I mean you guys probably touched on it enough last time, but he works so hard. He's such a good guy to have around, and to see him get rewarded, especially with assist from Griff, that was just one of those moments where you can't help but almost feel like emotional about hockey. Like, the emotion that just came out of that rink was awesome. And then it kind of did help for me, because I don't like being a center of attention at all, to help, like, that game felt great for me, and I was absolutely the most excited I've been maybe all year. But it was it was perfect for me that I got to still show Milty how pumped I was for him, and, like, that was his night, because I got to enjoy it with my family, and we had our little stuff. But to see Milton do that, and for us to do what we did that night, and to kind of keep those hopes alive the way we did, it was just, yeah, it's one of those games that you don't really forget.
Yeah, it's a game that I think a lot of Storm fans aren't going to forget for quite some time as well. And I'll use that as kind of a nice little chapter there for people to potentially pause and go and put some washing on or something. But we're going to move on and talk about one of my favorite things that I get to do with having this podcast and interviewing people like yourself is kind of diving into different players' hockey journeys. How you got from where you grew up to Manchester. Because there would have been a time in your life where you had no idea what a Manchester was, but here you are. And kind of more specifically, this always gives me a chance to prove how I can't really pronounce Canadian provinces. I'm going to give it a go here. You tell me how I do. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
There we go. There we go.
was
Bragging rights for sure.
Pretty easy. The start of both is the same, and then it's. I mean, you can definitely mess it up, but
I think a lot of people mess up Saskatchewan.
Yeah, Saskatchewan. As long as you kind of slow it down at the end, you don't enunciate every single letter. It's not not bad.
Well, you were doing so well, but then you said it was easy to pronounce. Let's just act like it's a good achievement for 2 seconds.
We can cut it out. You can edit that. Edit it. Make you sound awesome.
Make me sound like I'm the most intelligent person. Yeah, no, but it's always a lot of fun to go onto, and shout out to Elite Prospects, a great website, especially for myself when I try and plan these things. But having a look at your career yourself and all the places around the world that you've really been exploring Europe, eh?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly going as planned. I have some German heritage, so I was really looking in. I had found out that there was a chance I could get my passport and be a non-import in the German leagues. And so I had an opportunity to go there after the second year in the ECHL, and it seemed like it was going to start going great. I was looking to get my passport, everything, and it kind of went sideways around Christmas time, and they gave me the chance to find somewhere else. So I made the short 7-hour drive to Slovakia with a few, I guess they were security guards from our team. And that was honestly, Slovakia was one of those underrated countries. Absolutely beautiful. The mountains, it's small, so it's nice and easy. The longest trip was 2 hours, but gorgeous, underrated.
Slovakia gets a lot of love on this podcast, actually, because Milton last week was saying that would be the language he'd want to learn.
It's a funny language too, like the way letters like D's and J's next to each other and just different things, but I enjoyed everything about it, really. Like the people were great. Our rink was nice. The weather was beautiful. It helped they had played 90% of their home games before I had got to away games, before I got to the team. So I think we only had like 3 road trips when I was there. But that was, Slovakia will stick out as just a country that was really fun to be in and to live in. And then, I did one more year somewhere else, and I went to Nice, France, and that was fun. The travel was a lot, and the hockey just wasn't quite fitting for me. So then I found my way here with the Storm.
Yeah, I was just gonna go back to the Slovakia thing, because you played a couple of playoff games there as well, and you've played a couple of games in different leagues around Europe, and including relegation games. Now, this might just be I've only paid attention to it in this podcast and in the one with Alexi, but it was a really interesting question that I got to ask Alexi Daru when he was on, talking about what it's like to be in relegation hockey battles, because as far as I'm aware, that's not much of a thing. You guys don't really have relegation in North American sport culture. So was that something that was a shock, or were you kind of like, okay, no, I'm here for this?
Well, I had, to be honest, by the time we got to that point, I kind of realized the situation we were in and had to ask some questions because I had no idea that relegation was a thing. A bit about me, I don't do a lot of research into the places I go before I go. The Slovakia one, for example, I got a call at 11 a.m. saying, do you want to go to Slovakia? And less than 48 hours later, I was in the car. So I don't exactly find out things until they're kind of almost happening when it comes to certain aspects of the hockey. So I was kind of shocked when I found out that there was a chance we could get sent down to the second league. And to me, that's just, it sucks. You'd never want to be on a team where it's like, oh, that guy's team was the worst in the league and now they're in the second league. But we were fortunate that there was a team in the league whose owner had some issues and that team was going to be gone no matter what. So none of us in the relegation games actually could get relegated. So it was kind of a travel around France and play a couple of games and explore the cities we were in. So I can't really speak on the stress or the feeling or the intensity of those games, because I mean, before our last one, I was sitting there at the bar beside the rink, drinking pints with our coach and a couple of the imports, and we went out there and lost a 5-4 overtime game. But it kind of didn't really matter because nobody's getting relegated. The fans got a great show. It was an awesome game, but there just wasn't that passion behind it because nobody on my team cared, because there's no consequences of losing and there's no prize of winning. So we kind of just went out there and had fun for 5.
It's interesting.
Funnest hockey of the year, maybe for us, but it was a tough season.
Yeah, you made relegation hockey sound so enjoyable. I wouldn't have guessed that. That's for sure.
On a beach in Anglet, France, drinking a couple of beers and waking up and playing hockey the next day. How can you complain?
I think I've had dreams where I've done exactly that, actually. What about like from having all these different experiences, or what has it kind of taught you from playing in different levels of hockey? When I've asked this question, I think the best response I've got, I'm not sure if you're able to top this at all, but the best response that I got was from CJ Garcia, who said that instead of like end boards and glass or plexiglass, they had chicken wire in Australia. I mean, is there anything crazier than that?
It's tough. I don't think so. Like the stuff you'll see in that Australian league is basically brings me back to Mites hockey, where you can barely raise the puck, so they don't even put the glass up; it's just boards. But I mean, our rink in France was on the 5th floor. 3 of the 4 walls were just floor to ceiling windows, which made for a beautiful view. I mean, there's times at practice where I'd catch myself just kind of looking out into the mountains. But really, I can't really say I've had too many of those crazy experiences. Our rink in Germany was pretty cool. It was really, really old. Freezing. Our Zamboni had like a little bubble for the Zamboni driver to sit in with heaters because it was so cold. Yeah, I've been fortunate to play in some nicer cities and some nice rinks. At the end of the day, it's probably between Nice or the Storm Shelter on my craziest experiences, because we deal with a broken Zamboni every couple weeks, filling up holes from figure skaters every morning. It's a bit of an experience over here, but it's our home and we try and take advantage of it.
What about the Storm then? Because looking at your, I'll call it European Grand Tour or European Adventure, as far as Elite Prospects has taught me, you haven't decided to re-sign with one of the teams in Europe until you came to Manchester. So was it the broken Zamboni, or was it something else that made you go, no, this place is great, I want to stay here another year?
Yeah. I think the Zamboni and the Storm Shelter were probably the only things that even made me remotely consider going anywhere else. I mean, I knew Steve-O. We were teammates in Wichita, and we got along really well. And living with him last year, I mean, it's hard to complain. Joe can attest to it. He's one of the all-time kind of guys you'll meet. And then, I mean, me and Chase Harrison have been really good friends for a handful of years. We had met up in South Carolina at the end of my college career. And then, I mean, once I kind of waited. Once I found Joe was coming back, was looking to come back, that helped me out, because there was a few guys that I really wanted to play with again. And most of them were coming back. I mean, Critchie was re-signed, Heinem was re-signed, Harry was back. And so I'd almost get that like FOMO, the fear of missing out, if I'm somewhere else. And then I'm sitting there watching Harry, Heine, Joe, and Steve-O celebrate a goal on the Storm Instagram, and I'm sitting there somewhere else in the world, just like, oh, that looks fun. And I mean, Manchester is awesome. I can't really complain at all. Maybe a little less rain, but when you come from -40 and snow, you don't really care. But yeah, really, it was honestly mostly just the people. The people around the team have been so good to me for the last 18 months now. So it's kind of hard to replace the feeling of the support of the people. So
No,
that's
it's good to,
about all I got. I can't really think of much else. Like,
no.
that's good.
It's good to hear that you've got the support network around you, and I'm sure the fans are definitely part of that too.
oh, sure.
But yeah, do you know what? Let's talk about that first season, because I think many would have tried to make the argument that you were the goalie of the year, and if it wasn't for the equally crazy season that Matt Greenfield had that season, it would have been just you alone. I mean, it was the two of you were going neck and neck all season. But you contributed to making the Storm Shelter a real fortress in that last season. Personally, for you though, what was that first year like in Manchester, both on and off the ice?
It was honestly, it was a little stressful. If anybody was paying enough attention, the preseason didn't really go well for me or the team. I know we definitely didn't win any games, and we weren't looking great. And I know some guys had gone up to Critchy and to Coach Ginn and Harry and been like, "Are you sure this guy? Like, are you sure about him?" And I think it really helped having some of their support and like kind of just like helping me kind of find my footing. And then once it got to the real games, it kind of just felt normal. I mean, it felt almost kind of like the second year I was in the ECHL with Steven. And it was just like, you go to the rink, you have so much fun, you play a game, and it's so much fun when you're winning and when you're fighting with your team for every point in the standings. And I mean, that run we went on of 14 straight games with points was probably one of the funnest stretches of hockey I've been a part of. And it was just kind of a mix of, we had such a good group of guys. Everybody kind of had that common goal of fighting with each other, of sacrificing your body for your teammate or doing something that might not show up on your stat sheet, but so that the team can get the points. And it was just a special year. And then off the ice, I mean, we had our fun. We have the group of guys that when we had time to enjoy ourselves, we'd go out golfing. We'd spend a lot of times at Bunny Jackson's, crushing chicken wings and finding our way downtown. But it wasn't any big thing that stood out last year. It was just kind of that general everyday, such a high level of enjoyment to go to the rink, to get on the ice. And honestly, although the results this year haven't quite been the same, we do have a group of guys where I'm excited to wake up and go to the rink every day and kind of hear what Milty's going to be spouting off about today, or what bet Husey put on that was one leg away. So it's it's a fun group to be a part of. It's hard to compare anywhere else really for me so far.
I can understand. Like, I think the most accurate word you could describe your time here would be stressful. And it's not primarily used as a negative term saying that. I think stressful can mean a lot of things for a lot of people with it. If I'm ever stressed, I view it as a good thing, because then I just can look in the mirror and realize that I'm not just some psychotic robot. So I'm like kind of pumped to get a little stressed, because I just never get stressed out.
Yeah.
But like for you last year, it was like you were so heavily relied upon, which again is like, I don't know what you call it, a catch-22 or a blessing and a curse at the same time, whatever. Like you were so heavily relied upon that I feel like you had a ton of fun with that, because it forced you to be 10 out of 10 engaged all the time. It forced you to be the best of the best you could possibly be, because I know you as a person, and I know you would never, ever, 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 ever let somebody down. So that's like a good stress for you, because you just put your heart and soul into that team last year. And even this year, it's just like you can only do so much as a goaltender, and this is something that I could talk about for hours, is that you can only do so much, and your best of your best can be viewed as a bad game if there's, I don't even know how many guys are on a hockey team, and I've played for a million years, like 6 D-men and 12 forwards don't do their job. Effectively, it can be like, when he didn't play that great, we lost 5-3. When in turn, it's like, there's so many factors that go into being a goaltender, which I have a meltdown trying to think about it, because it's like, okay, yeah, we lost the game. They only had 31 shots, and 19 of those shots were grade A scoring chances. Like, they should have scored 19 goals, but you can't really see that. So I think stressful was the perfect word to use, and not even in a negative way, but it just like, I really wish, and I hope this is kind of the point of the podcast, is that I hope that fans that don't fully understand hockey yet can start to grasp some of these concepts of what it means to be a player on the ice, and the different positions, and the strenuous time and mentality that can alter what decisions you make in that position. But being a goaltender, for sure, like that last year, for sure, stressful. And not stressful is a bad thing, like I said, because you were relied upon, and that in turn, 100% should have won you that award and that accolade, being that, our team was not at 100% all the time. Our team was a little bipolar, just like, it's like sometimes it'd be amazing, sometimes you wouldn't, but the consistency that you had throughout that year was there. So that in its own should play a factor in the decisions of those awards. But again, we're all learning in England here, and it's a learning curve, so we're getting there.
I've had my fair share of accolades and different kind of people telling me I'm good and whatnot. And to be honest, just even being like, knowing around here how, especially in Europe, like there's some place I played where they just don't fully grasp, like you said, that why it's harder to be a goalie for the Manchester Storm than the Sheffield Steelers.
Right.
You ask every Steelers fan, they're going to tell you Matt Greenfield was the goalie of the year last year. And I mean, I agree, he was unbelievable, but life's a lot easier in that rink than it is in the storm shelter every night. And it was fun to watch people argue about it, because at the end of the day, I had such a fun year. I don't really need a little piece of paper that tells me I did good. I know deep down that I did good.
Exactly.
So the stress thing is pretty spot on. And like I said, it's not that I like the stress. I didn't mean that stress is like every night and laying awake sweating because I'm stressed out. It was that stress that you want, where you're fired up because you want to be the best. You want to be at your best, and you got to be tested as such.
Exactly.
Well, if you weren't chasing a piece of paper that says you were good, I'll let you know you still did, if you can remember the end of year kind of ceremony or event thing from last season.
Yeah.
You got, I think, players, fans, and coaches player of the year. So those are some accolades for you if you want to add to that, and that could be like your little hype man thing for a second. But yeah, Joe, you kind of touched on it. I mean, it's not easy being a goalie. That's one of the easiest sentences I can probably ever say on this podcast. But going into this season, talk to me about in the highs and lows and the hot streaks and cold streaks that goalies can have. What do you think what were the factors that played into the beginning of the season, where there was a couple of performances where maybe you wish the result was a little bit differently, maybe you wish you had one back or something like that? Was the factor just, oh, damn, Joe should have played better in front of me, or what do you think was going on?
No, I'm the last guy. I try not to, like how Joe alluded to, I could play my best game, and if there's people in front of me that make mistakes to cause a goal to happen, I will never yell at a guy and be like, hey, Joe, you got to block that shot. Like, if he doesn't get in the way of it, I get it. Pucks hurt. Like, and if you might not have noticed, you might have thought you were in that line of the shot, but you didn't. And so I know that what goes on in my head isn't the same thing that goes on in their head. And they're not sitting there thinking, okay, no goals against, no goals against. They got so much going on. So I kind of, maybe to a fault this year, but I kind of wear that I don't wear the goals against and have it weigh on me, but I kind of analyze my goals against and think, okay, where could I have maybe made a different read or made a different decision? And when you're going through those games, when it does kind of snowball, especially like this year when we went on that little bit of a skid, and you go and you're waking up every day going like, okay, what can I do to get myself back? And at this point in my career, I've kind of started to see the patterns in my game when I start to play well, when I might have those off stretches, what might be causing them. And I like to kind of, for myself personally, I kind of just go back to the basics. I like to go just end of practice, do one shooting drill, grab a guy to come shoot a couple pucks, and just one small movement, set, make the save. Make sure I'm balanced, make sure I'm doing all the little things that I work on the summer to kind of get myself back to the goalie I am. Because throughout the season, you start to lose little things, you start to improvise. You might find something that works a little bit better, but is a little more unconventional, and you want to kind of get that out after. And so you kind of just almost put yourself in that summer training mindset of just where can I do to get myself back to that base goalie that I have. And then from there, you pinpoint the little things and you find, okay, maybe, I did have too much weight. I wasn't balanced. I was leaning way too much on my right foot. So then every time I went down, my right knee goes down, then my left knee. And that's why I'm not quite getting that glove to that puck. Or that's why I'm feeling like I'm not really on my angle or whatnot. And so I like to kind of just do back to the basics. And then for me, a big part is then just bringing the fun back with it. Because it's not fun when you're losing. It's not fun when you're not stopping the puck. And so having just a nice, easy step over, take that shot, you make sure you grab specific shooters, because some guys might just say, oh, do you want to come shoot? And they'll be putting it by your ear. And so you make sure you grab the shooters, and you ask them, hey, just when I come over, shoot to score, but don't hit me in the head, basically. So then it kind of keeps everything below right here. And then you can kind of just focus on that easy movement, easy save. And then through the week, kind of build back up and get yourself back to where you want to be.
It's great insight, and something like I mean, Joe, earlier you're dead right. Like the reason why one of the main reasons I wanted to do this episode with you, Evan, was to talk about those moments and to kind of get this insight that you wouldn't get normally.
For sure.
And one of the things that I was especially wanting to talk about, and why I'm really glad you've agreed to come on, is the lessons that we can learn as people that don't play hockey, especially in goal for a living, but about bouncing back from certain setbacks. And I mean that in your profession, you can't get bigger setbacks than an injury. So that's kind of the direction I want to take this for a second. We had Alex Oldale on, the first goalie to come on the pod. He came on the week that you picked up your injury. So we got to speak to him about how he came in at very short notice and, with respect to him, played really well to kind of see that game out. But I'll almost go back to that moment where Alex is out there battling for you, and you may be in the dressing room with, shout out Tom Broadford, the physio. But like, what's that moment like for you where you realize, man, I'm gonna miss some time here with this one?
It kind of, honestly, I kind of had picked up on it pretty soon. Like I've had concussions in the past, and I know kind of when that feeling hits when I'm not feeling great. And when I kind of got up from getting hit, saw Tom, and I was like, oh, I was just laying there for a little bit if you got all the way over here. And so that was kind of, for me, I didn't know if it was a concussion. I just knew I got my bell rung for sure, at least. And with those, for sure, not an injury, like doesn't actually injure your brain. You're just kind of like, oh, that was crazy. I wasn't ready to get hit there. But yeah, once I kind of got down into the tunnel and I was sitting there with Tom, and I remember him kind of doing the eye test with the fingers, and I was like, oof, I'm not going to be able to stop a puck. Like I can't go back out there. And to have a guy like Alex, who's honestly one of my biggest supporters, and I couldn't appreciate as a goalie partner more. He's such a nice kid. And I know when he does get an opportunity and when he gets a chance, he's going to go out there and battle like you wouldn't believe. He takes such pride in going out there. And for me, it was really cool because I didn't have any way to watch from the dressing room, but to kind of hear, okay, it's 3-1. Okay, it's 3-2. And Alex is making some saves and we're going. I was like, maybe this isn't the worst thing that could have happened. Kind of, it holds us a little more defensively accountable. And Belfast was playing a little fast and loose. And that kind of, you never know. That would have been an unbelievable story for Al. But that moment when it kind of sets in and you kind of realize, okay, well, I probably won't be able to play next week. And then you start looking at the schedule and thinking, okay, you know your body enough to kind of time out when you think that return can be. And then as you go, you got to do everything so perfectly and listen so much to your body, or else you just put yourself another week, 10 days, 2 weeks out. And so it was nice to have, like you said, Tom, shout out to him, the work that he did with me and kind of helping me rehab through everything that I had to go through there was awesome and get me back into the playing shape I needed to be in. And he keeps it fun. I mean, Joe can attest, like when you are hurt and you're getting the physio from him and you're spending a lot of time on the table, if you have somebody that's just kind of sitting there and just does the work and says, okay, you're done. It's monotonous. It's boring. It doesn't really make you want to keep doing it. But as much as Tom makes it hurt more while he's doing the physio, you know that he's going to, A, he's keeping it light and he'll make you laugh. And B, it is progressing. You're doing the right things. It's just in that moment, it definitely sucks.
Take me through that period then, from the amount of time that you were out, and talking about bouncing back from setbacks, what we can learn as fans from this and as people in our everyday lives, from picking up the injury in Belfast, flying back to Manchester, and then I think the first game was Glasgow. You started away. So in that time, almost psychologically, we're going here. Talk me through the process of getting yourself back. What I've learned from you so far in this podcast is that you almost don't like to sit still. In games, you love it when you're being busy. You love it when you're active. You go to sleep because you've got so much time before games. So I can imagine from that when you're injured and you're not playing games, that can be a little bit stressful. Do you have maybe a video game that you play instead to pass the time, or how do you navigate that?
This is going to take 4 hours now. Why did you say that? You can't bring that up.
He alluded to it earlier, so I wanted to pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, it sucks, and especially with a concussion at the start. And then it did progress where I had my knee was banged up last year, and it kind of popped back in. So that was something that surprised me and was one of those setbacks that you don't expect at the time. And it sucks. I mean, dealing with that kind of stuff isn't fun, but like you mentioned, video games is my way of, I need that competitive and the competitive field. I need some friends to be playing with. And I've kind of got a really good group of that with, I mean, Joe, Harry, and Heine. We've got this game, Rocket League. It's basically what you guys call football, but with cars that can fly. I've put my life into it. I'm a nerd with it. It's awesome. And then the classics, the Call of Duty and Fortnite would get sprinkled in there. But the car soccer game is the one that kind of, it scratched that competitive itch once I was able to kind of get back into the video games. And it kind of got that where, okay, as long as I can keep doing my rehab and kind of be on track, this at least gives me something to like get excited about and get fired up when me, Joe, and Harry are going to play for an hour at 7 p.m. and I get to kind of be in my element and have fun and feel like I'm doing something, to me, that's cool. And I think it's with injuries, it's really important to find stuff like that. I know other people that aren't into video games, they end up finding different ways. One of my teammates, when he tore his ACL in college, he got really into reading and started reading just books and ended up reading the whole Harry Potter series, the whole Hunger Games. But that just isn't my style. I think when you do lose something like hockey, that is your entire life and it's all you know and have known, it's easy to get lost in that first couple days to couple like week. And especially if it does drag on a little bit. And then obviously when we signed 10 deck, then that kind of puts me in a spot where I'm ready to come back, but I haven't played in a month and I'm ready to come back, but we're in a tough spot in the standings and Tendy's playing quite well. I'm not going to go in there and force my way into the net because I just care about our team enough that if I don't feel 100% ready to go, that I'm going to go out and play my best. I don't want to go in there and ruin something that we had building. And so it was nice at the start. We had some conversations, me and Coach Mike, just kind of finding that game and the proper preparation that I could do to get ready. And so then going into that Glasgow game, I had nothing on my mind but going in there, playing my game and walking out of there with 2 points if we could. And a lot of the guys on the team were really supportive of that. A lot of the guys came out and battled for me like you wouldn't really believe they would on a Wednesday night in Glasgow. But it was a tough period for sure. But when you find something other than hockey that you care about and can kind of still bring out that competitive side, for me, it helped kind of get through some of those days where the boys are on the road in Guildford and you wish you could be playing, but you can't. So you have to find somewhere else to scratch that itch.
I think it's a crazy scenario too, just for somebody who doesn't, like, for people to understand, if you don't play sports and you don't have that team aspect of things, it's almost like being isolated away from your family.
Yeah. It's
when you get injured or you have a setback like that, where it's something that bumps you from your everyday routine of, it's almost like if you were a kid growing up in your house and every day before school you ate breakfast with your mom and dad and sister. And then something happens and every day you still have to go to school and you still have to accomplish something in your life, but your mom, dad, and sister aren't there to have breakfast with you anymore and you're just alone.
Yeah.
Like it's actually super mentally draining being isolated from your team because you don't get to participate in practice. You really don't see guys at the rink because you don't want to take time away from them and what their routine is doing. So when you're injured, you just are basically solo and you just kind of cruise around and you do your best to get back and you spend more time rehabbing than doing anything else. But by that time, the guys are done with their day and they're on to their next thing. So, I mean, I know in the past too, for sure, like video games they're the GOAT. They're the best. You hop on the mic and you feel like you're part of the team again. And like, when he was hurt and he was starting to come back and he'd be like, hey, like, I'm feeling pretty good. Like I could probably play for an hour. It was like, yeah, immediately, like Harry, Heine, me, everybody would hop online and throw the headset on and you just, shoot the breeze and hang out and play some video games. And it's like, you're still trying to win every game and have a blast. And like when he introduced me to Rocket League and I just turned into a turbo nerd too and got obsessed with it. It's awesome. But little things like that, I think, are very important, not only for somebody who wants to play sports or does play sports or is just listening to this podcast purely just out of enjoyment. If you get out of a routine and you feel lonely or isolated, you can always find something. And it's very important to find something that is almost like a secondary to what you're normally used to.
Yeah.
And I mean, for us, for sure, it's video games. It's great. I mean, I think it's hilarious. You just hop on, you play for an hour or two, and And, I don't know if there was a day this year where I put my controller down after playing video games and I was in a bad mood. I was always like, maybe came into it a little grouchy. And then I was like, I'll play with the guys for a bit. And then afterwards, I'm like, yeah, my day's pretty awesome now. Like,
And
it's super funny.
Another part of the video games thing, just to, make myself feel better about how much video games I play. The big one for me is just like staying connected to people that you don't see. Like, I know we talked about getting Cole McDonald to come on this week, and he's busy, but he's up in Dundee, and like, we've never ever actually hung out as friends, but because of Riker in Germany, we became like good friends just from playing Xbox all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping in contact with guys I went to college with, or like different guys that maybe I don't see that often, but at one point in my life was seeing every day for 3 years straight. And it is a change when you leave college, and it's like, nice, I might never see Ryan Jones ever again, but we talk every day on Xbox. So I still feel like I'm a part of his life. I still feel like I know what's going on with him. And I think for me, that's a part that people do overlook. And it kind of does. I mean, video games aren't the answer to everything, but there's certain things for me that it helps out so much mentally.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, video games. I want to give a shout out to video games in general, because I think they're great for all those things that you mentioned. For people that, like, you'll have friends that you've grown up around, and then all of a sudden you move to different places, like Manchester for some reason. Why would you do that? But here you are, and through the power of being able to just hop on a game, you're able to instantly connect with those people again. So that's really cool. Shout out Rocket League as well. I'm very surprised that you said that you always finish a game of Rocket League and you feel relaxed and you feel happy, because it's such a competitive game. People try so hard at that I would find that infuriating personally.
I've played enough that I've kind of, like hockey, you can't take it too seriously. If you start getting mad at it, you're just going to get more mad. So we found a good balance of, obviously we go in and we want to win every game of Rocket League we play, but also we know how absolutely hilarious it is when Heine goes up to clear the ball in front of our net, jumps over the ball, and they score the overtime winner. It's just you're either pumped and celebrating, or you're laughing until you cry.
Yeah.
For me, those are the big ones.
We're gonna get so many people searching at what Rocket League is after this. I love it. One final question on that, because that wasn't something I wrote down in here at all. But do you happen to play goal at all when you're playing Rocket League?
It's we do a rotation. It's kind of like there's no like set goalie. I would say, just because I've played for 10 years compared to the other guys have only played about 3 months. I'd probably say I get the most saves, but that's just a product of me kind of being selfish and wanting to hit the ball.
Now, when he saves us all the time, we fly around. We're the high screaming offense. Heine plays Rocket League how he plays hockey. He's absolutely screaming around the pitch. And there's some, like, we laugh about it, but one day somebody is going to commentate and say I'm a world-class defender on the pitch, and people are going to think it means football or something, and it's going to mean Rocket League. I will make it. I will.
Yeah. That was for a little background information for you, Matty. Me, Joe, Harry, and Heine watched Rocket League in person pretty recently, so we're fully dove in.
Wow. Okay. The esports scene, huh?
The esports scene, yeah. Birmingham Major 2025.
Yeah.
We weren't the only professional athletes in the building. Let's say that.
Well, you've got to find.
I might have been the biggest one, but I was not the only professional athlete in there.
Wow.
Maybe scariest.
We were a good foot and a half taller than any of those kids on stage.
It was cool. Oh man, it was fun to watch. So like, just stuff like that too is like, I'll remember that forever. That it's like, I don't know if I could have found guys on another team that would have, just been like, oh yeah, I'll go watch a video game live. Like, yeah, let's do it. And everybody was so excited to do it. So it's like, it's stuff like that. It's like it's why you play the sport. It's why you get so invested in hockey, and it's why it's so hard to just give it up at any point in your life. It's little things like that. Like you just pack in the car, you drive to Birmingham, and you go watch an RLCS major, and it's just like I don't know. If I'm working a normal job, you think the guy that's like, you know,
Cubicle
man
neck.
in the shovel at a construction site is going to be like, yeah, let's go watch Rocket League, dude. And it's probably like, what is wrong with you?
Dude, I've shoveled to make this money. I'm not spending it on a video game show.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, man, whatever. Don't make me feel bad about it.
No, it's been such a fascinating discussion. We've got a couple of questions left, and obviously the cup of Joe as well. But yeah, no, it's been such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it so far, Evan. Thank you so much.
No problem.
For talking about like finding vices and stuff and ways to make, I mean, vice is the right word, but making sure you've got other things to do to kind of keep that competitive tick going. Because whatever, if it is Rocket League, if it's trekking all the way over to Birmingham to watch a video game show, if it means that we're getting shutouts in the storm shelter, I'm sure the fans won't care, even if they don't understand it.
No, yeah,
For sure.
So yeah, no, it's been a really good conversation. Like you said, you could talk for hours, and I think you guys just proved it there. But to make sure that we do actually bring a close to this, I'm gonna be the boring one that kind of turns the tap off and just has two more questions. Talking about at the time that this podcast goes live, the dropping of the puck for the final home game of the season is gonna be just moments away, and it's gonna be, well, one of the biggest stories of the week in UK hockey was the announcement that the Captain Cam, is going to be retiring, and this is his last game in the storm shelter. So it's definitely something I wanted to ask you guys about. It's interesting that it's fallen after the Rocket League discussion,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's going to be just as meaningful. I'll start with you, Evan. Talk me through what it's like having had a leader like Cam in the dressing room.
It's been unbelievable. I mean, you play, like you said, I've played on so many different teams, and you get exposed to so many different players, and then amongst that you have your leadership group, and you always worry going in, is that going to end up being, is this going to be a guy that I respect but can't really become friends with? I kind of just have to have that respect for him, and he's just an old guy that kind of shows us how everything's done. Or is he going to be that vocal leader? And I think he's done a pretty good job of doing a little bit of both. There's times where I'd come to the rink and I'd see him, and I know that, okay, it means business. Like we're dialing in here. Or there's days where you see that smile with no teeth, and you're like, all right, we're having a fun day. And he does a good job of kind of leading the charge as far as even like just dragging guys into the fight. And there's games where you can see we don't have it, where we don't have that full buy-in, and it always, I mean, they say it starts at the top, and Critchy does wear that badge well, where he'll go out there and he'll lay a hit, he'll go muck in the corners, and he walks that walk in a way that you really need out of a captain. I think that was a big part of our success last year, was when we'd be in a tight game late in the game, he would go out there, him, Heine, and Sammy, that scary line of speed, Heinem crushing guys, and Critch just doing dirty work and just finding ways to put the puck in the net. And I think that's a big part of being a captain, is not only that leadership, but then when you need a big moment, having Critchy there to step up in that big moment never really gave you too much of a worry. There's one of those guys that any day of the week you can see him, have a conversation, and he's just a person that, like I said with Steve-O, where like you'll remember him forever. The jokes, the movie quotes, that smile without the teeth, the St. Patrick's days at Kennedy's. It's hard to really pinpoint anything about him specifically that makes him a good captain and makes him a good leader. It's kind of just the blend of who he is and that personality that just kind of, it fits the bill, and he wears it well. And it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be an emotional night on Friday, and I think we can use that as a team to kind of rally behind and show our respect to him, and put out our best effort to make that night as special as we can.
It's a big deal game anyway, with all the context going into this game against Guildford. But I think it's going to mean just that little bit more playing for your captain as well. I
Absolutely.
mean, to talk to me, Joe, about the factors going into this one this weekend.
Oh man, yeah, it just kind of, I mean, it's probably one of the games that I've been most excited for in a very long time, specifically because I've been waiting for this team to show up like they have the last couple weeks, the entire year. And finally, we've started to mesh as a group and started to really just understand the sport of hockey as a team and play it well. And it's honestly, it's like, again, it's like the Jekyll and Hyde thing. It's infuriating because even when we win a game, I get so upset after the win because why haven't we done that for 9 months? It's just like, it just makes me, I don't know. I just don't understand. And we play so well at times and then we play so bad at times. So what's going on lately is that everybody is just being a team and they're putting their best foot forward and everybody's fighting for each other like we did last year and like we did at certain points this year. So that gets me super excited for this game because right now everybody's feeling good. We know we can win. And I'm sure they're just as excited as I am. But I mean, like you said, there's just a lot of stuff that goes into the game. And I think the emotion of, how when he said you're playing for somebody that is probably one of the most memorable hockey players that anybody gets to play with. You could throw up 40 brick walls, concrete barrier, blast shelter walls, and I can promise you I could hear Critchy laugh through them. Like it's just like, the guy just like he just radiates this certain energy that everybody needs in their life. And to see somebody like that has to, I mean, him personally, that has to kind of endure a big spotlight in a game that's like, oh, this could be your last home game or this is your last home game. Like me personally, do I think that's fair? Not, like everybody, you have to go through it. Everybody retires at some point, but do I think it's fair? I think it's like a lot of, there's a lot going on. And I think that, Critchy deserves to have a game that is just everybody's just given their absolute best. And I truly hope, that's what happens. And I don't really have a doubt in my mind that it's going to be a super entertaining game. But to have, like I said, it's just a long-winded answer to, I think that guy deserves the world. And I think that there wouldn't be anything better than just a full team, awesome game, just come away with a win that is an incredible feeling at the end of it, that everybody just played their hearts out and everybody had a blast. And you sit in that dressing room with those guys again. And obviously we have to play another game after that, but you'd probably be like one of those nights that you said where you just kind of lay awake and you're so excited to play the next one because we played this one so well. So I think that that's pretty much what it's going to be in the shelter, is that everybody's just going to be so excited for that guy and show their respect for him. And obviously it's a game that we have to win. And I've said it for months now. We just have to keep winning these games. And we've been doing a really good job. So I hope it carries on.
Especially this weekend. I wonder if I can already predict who the player of the game is going to be voted by the fans at the end. I'm not even sure if you guys have a chance. You might as well play the best game you've ever played, but I reckon Critch will get a fair few of the votes, and deservedly so. Hopefully, it's a really good atmosphere to commemorate a brilliant captain, and yeah, no, I can't wait for it. That's for sure. And by the time people are listening to this, it's literally moments away. If they're listening to it the second it goes live, if you're listening to it after the fact, then you already know how much fun it would have been. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. The last thing that I'm gonna ask Wenny to do before the Cup of Joe segment is kind of give a message to the fans ahead of this last push. And you said we were nearly gonna get someone from Dundee in Cole McDonald on. What's your message to Dundee as well as we head into this final weekend of the season?
Oh gosh, there's a couple that I probably can't say, but they better be gripping those sticks tight, because I mean, at the end of the day, right now the pressure's on them. They're in the spot right now. They got Glasgow and Fife. We got Guildford and Fife, but even even just knowing kind of what's going on over there, they've been seeing how we're doing. They know that we beat Cardiff, we beat Belfast, 2 massive wins, and not just beat them. We won in a collective 11-1 score in those 2 games. And I think that Dundee knows they can't leave anything up to chance, because we've got it all to play for. And I think they're going to be thinking about us while we're probably going to be going out there and playing our game for Cam and giving ourselves that chance to leapfrog them and show them that we kind of are that team. When it came down to it, we will get it done.
Well, there you go. If that doesn't entice you to snatch up one of the final tickets left, then I don't know what will. However, for the most part, that is my role done for this podcast. Now it is time for another edition of the Cup of Joe segment. Before we started, I asked Evan if he wanted to know a bit about it beforehand or if he wanted to just jump straight into it. And Evan said he wanted to jump straight into it. So, Joe, take it away.
Yeah, we'll just fire off. I only got like 10 questions for you here, but it's just no think, rapid fire answer.
All right.
Whatever comes to your mind. So we'll just fire it up. We got, if you were a cartoon character, who would you be?
Stewie Griffin.
What has been your favorite age so far?
23.
Nice. What do you wish you learned sooner?
How to drive a standard vehicle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Best concert you've attended?
Oh, that's tough. Probably Billy Talent.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Teammates' life would make the best reality show.
Oof. Oh, Zach Milton, probably.
Would you rather be rich or healthy?
Healthy.
What creeps you out?
Oh, spiders, the dark.
Mm-hmm. Invisibility or super strength?
Yeah, invisibility is the only answer.
Yep. Scuba diving or skydiving?
Skydiving. Ocean scary.
That is scary. Texting or calling?
Depends on the situation. If I'm asking a question, texting. If I'm trying to set something up, calling.
Yep, that's fair. If you could speak any language fluently, what would it be?
Spanish.
Yep. And then give me 3 things a person needs to be happy.
Friends, family, and health.
Okay. That's it. That's all. You're fat.
His family, you don't need. Like,
family's kind of a given.
Yeah, I panicked. Friends, because I mean, like, I love my friends the same way I love my family, because my family are kind of just like my friends, but just like I had to hang out with them, you know.
That is true. And I can second that. Yeah, I got to hang out with your family. It's definitely big vibes. You guys like each other. You weren't just stuck with each other.
Yeah, it took a while to get there with my sister Tash, but once we became friends, we were good.
So if family's a given, what's that final thing? Anything else jump to mind?
I mean, friends, health, and then honestly, probably money.
Yeah. So yeah, I was waiting for somebody to say money.
Because like, if I have all my friends and I'm healthy, the only thing I want from there is money to spend with my friends.
Yeah. Like, I'm surprised nobody said money. I mean, granted, like, I get it. Everybody's just kind of like, money doesn't buy happiness, but like, you don't know me.
Yeah. Money doesn't buy happiness. You've never seen a sad guy on vacation.
Exactly.
Well,
that's funny.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this one. Thank you as always, Joe, and thank you, Winnie. It's been great having you on.
No problem. Like I said, it's been too long, and I mean, we might have stretched that one out a little bit, but
I told you. Me and Winnie can. Yeah.
I was gonna say the problem is having me and Joe is probably the issue.
I mean, if I ever have to take a podcast off, you guys have got it. Just get you guys on. You guys will be fine. But yeah, no, thank you so much for your effort today. It's been great. Hopefully you listening at home have enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for your continued support with each episode. This time I wanted to give some special shout outs at the end to Chuck and Diane for their kind words on YouTube. We do read every single one, and I really appreciate it personally as well. So if you liked this episode, why not give it a review, a like, or a comment to let us know what you thought. Maybe you didn't agree with some of those answers. Maybe you don't like Rocket League. Why not let us know? But yeah, be sure to tell all your friends. Latest podcast. For now, that's it for the Storm Report podcast. Thank you so much. Take care.
That was the Storm Report, brought to you by Storm TV. Tune in next week for more exclusive insights. Tickets on sale now at manchesterstorm.com.